Let me begin. I'm Linda Penner. I chair the Board of State and Community Corrections, and I have the pleasure of chairing the working group or subcommittee that is doing the oversight for the money and that we're discussing today, that is ready to go out to the county as soon as we get all the T's crossed and I's dotted. We're here today to hear your input, and I'm happy to be here. I'm super impressed yet again with such a full audience today. That is the one, I think that's a Zoom blessing. How's that? We'll go with that. David?
Yeah, welcome everybody. Well, Linda said that she was the chair, but actually we have two chairs of this committee and I'm the co-chair. I'm really glad that all of you could join us today. Pretty big number out there. Really looking forward to your input. And I hope we learned something from all of the folks from all segments and sectors, probation, advocates, whoever's out there. So the RFA was put out online and it is an outline, and we're here to hear what you think about it before it goes any farther down the track. So I really look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Penner and Mr. Steinhardt. My name's Katie Howard. I'm the Executive Director of the BSCC, and I want to give a few introductory comments. I also want to add my welcome to everybody here for this stakeholder input session on the Youth Programs and Facilities Grant Program. We appreciate you coming, and as David and Linda have already said, we look forward to hearing your suggestions and your input. So just a few words on the format for today. By way of brief background, as I'm sure you're all aware, the funding for this grant is one part of a very significant shift in California in juvenile justice. SB 823 was enacted last year, and as you're all aware, in July of this year, the Division of Juvenile Justice will stop intake, and young people who might have gone to DJJ will instead be under local supervision by the counties. The closure of DJJ represents a historic opportunity to continue California's transformative work in how we approach youth justice. The legislative and funding changes connected to DJJ realignment are very complex, and they include ongoing funding to the counties to address young people's programming and treatment needs locally. When it comes to this particular funding, which is one small part of SB 823, there is a grant for $9.6 million that the BSCC is administering, and quoting from the statute, it is to, quote, award one-time grants to counties for the purpose of providing resources for infrastructure-related needs and improvements to assist counties in the development of a local continuum of care, close quote. The BSCC got to work right away in the fall after this bill was signed and made a decision that there are special circumstances in SB 823 that required us to move very quickly to get this funding out to the field. Many of you are familiar with the Executive Steering Committee process that the board often uses in connection with competitive grants. That process takes many months to put together a committee, write an RFP, determine rating criteria, etc. In the case of this funding, which can only go to counties, the board determined that an expedited approach was needed. For that reason, we moved right away to determine some high priority infrastructure needs of the counties for this funding. As we've already noted, the counties need to be ready to serve youth locally beginning in July of 2021. So in December 2020, we conducted a survey of counties, and that survey was distributed to county administrative officers and probation departments. The survey analysis and all of the responses to the RFI are available on the BSCC website. At the February board meeting, after analyzing the results from the RFI, the board approved in concept a plan that would designate up to $4 million to go out in grants to counties of up to $1 million each that are prepared to serve particular youth with needs for specified programming and treatment services. On the RFI survey, many counties indicated that they do not have capacity to serve and provide appropriate treatment to youth in the following three high needs categories. 1, young females, 2, youthful sex offenders, and 3, seriously mentally ill youth. So as I mentioned, the concept is that of this 9.6 million, 4 million would go to counties in $1 million chunks, counties that are able to provide a sort of regional hub. And I know that term's been tossed around a lot, but we're talking about it, specifically in relation to the county's needs at this point. For today's listening session, we're going to refer to this as part 1 of the program, or regional projects. The remaining funding is proposed to be distributed on an equitable basis to all counties to address their infrastructure needs connected to meeting these new responsibilities to serve the young people. We're going to call this part 2 of the grant, or the all county funding. We had some public comment period in writing following our February board meeting, and we've heard a number of comments from interested stakeholders that some believe this grant making process has not been sufficiently inclusive. Keeping in mind that we still want to get the funding out before June 2021, and that the board has approved this approach in concept, we added today's input session to provide a more structured opportunity for comment and input. So that's a quick summary, or maybe a medium length summary, of how we got to today. And I'd like to just review how we're asking for your input in today's session. We'd like to divide the time into 3 segments and receive your input on both parts of the grant that I just described. And then a third portion of today's session will be an opportunity to hear any other comments you may have on the grant. As David mentioned, last Friday, we posted a document that is a draft outline of the grant based on the feedback and actions we've taken to date. If you've had a chance to review that in advance, great. We welcome your comments. And if not, it's fairly brief, so you may be able to have a look right now if you're at your computer. So what we'd like to do now is take a few minutes to organize the cues for these 3 different parts of the input session. Part 1 being the proposed regional projects of up to $1 million to address infrastructure needs for specified populations. And then part 2, the proposed funding that will go to all counties to address a wide range of diverse infrastructure needs. And then part 3, additional input into the RFA. So if you would please put your name into the Zoom chat feature and let us know if you would like to give input on part 1 or part 2 or part 3. And yes, of course, if you have distinct comments on the 3 different areas, go ahead and let us know that you'd like to comment on 1, 2, or 3, or 1 and 2 and 3. What we're hoping will work is to take about 30 minutes for each of the parts, with a little wiggle room if we need to go longer. And depending on how many people have requested to give input per segment, we'd like to be able to give each speaker up to 3 minutes. But if we have more than 10 speakers on a section, we're going to need to reduce that down a little bit to maybe 2 minutes. So if we could please have your help, we will take a moment and ask you again to please put into the Zoom chat which of the 3 parts you'd like to give input on, and then we will get going. And then just one last note by way of request, so that we can make the best use of everybody's time today. If you're appearing on a section of today's agenda where suggestions and comments have been made by another speaker that you'd like to associate yourself, could you please just indicate your agreement with the prior comment and try not to repeat what's already been said? We'd really appreciate that. Okay, so I'm assuming that we're getting a lot of names in the chat. My colleague Adam will be helping me with the line and the queue. So we'll just take a couple of minutes so we can get all that organized.
Katie, we had a request I see in chat. Somebody didn't catch what part 1 and part 2 were about. Could you help just repeat that again?
Yep, happy to do that, David. So part 1 would be for the regional projects of up to $1 million each. Part 2 would be the all county share to meet the county's different infrastructure needs. And we can get into more of the details later, but if we fund 4 projects at $1 million each, there will be about $5 million shared among all the counties. So that part 2 is the all county share. And then part 3 will be please comment on any aspect of the grant that you may wish to weigh in on. I hope that helps. Okay. Okay. And I'm seeing names start to pop in. This is great. Part 1 for the up to $1 million grants, Part 2 for the all county portion, and Part 3, any other topic you may wish to address on this grant. Seen a couple people on Part 2. Question from in the chat, will the session last through 6 p.m.? For those who are unable to join before 5 p.m., we will do our best to manage the time. If we finish, Linda and David, if
We should go forward with the 30-30 structure that you have, which would end us, you know, take us well
To
over an hour. And
5:30.
if somebody joins late, they can just join in the last segment.
Right, for
and we
sure.
can help them direct their comments if they need to.
Yeah, that sounds right, David. Yeah, and we definitely, yeah, if someone's not able to join in the first 30 minutes and they still might want to make a comment on that section, that's fine to come in later, of course.
Katie, as of right now, I have 3 people for part 1. And 2 for part 2 and 1 for part 3. I'm going to put the parts in the chat so that everyone can read it and follow me that way.
Great. And Adam, you'll be able to call the names of the people you have on the list, right? Yeah, I see you nodding. Thank you so much. Well, I think it might be a good idea to get started. We did have one person indicate a time constraint. Did that person want to comment on part 1?
That would be Leslie Kassoff. Leslie, would you like to go ahead and make your comment?
Sure. Thank you so much for having us all here today and for the work you're doing. I worked for the LA Superior Court for 29 years and retired in August. My main responsibility for most of my career there was the program manager of our teen court program, which encompassed about 60,000 youth throughout the year. Over 42 schools were involved and over 100 of our judicial officers. It's a diversion program that is still running. I'm involved with the Shades portion as well still. I am now the director of youth empowerment and social justice with the CBO in Los Angeles, PESA, which is Parents, Educators, Students, and Teachers in Action. And we are doing a lot of work in our local schools with diversion programs. And we have an extensive number of workshops that we're working on through side by side with the teen court program. Our youth courts, as I've watched them over the last 15 years, have morphed and become an incredible source of diversion. We've gotten feedback from both the students that are involved as jurors or observers, as well as the diverted youth that have gone through, and it's changed their lives because of many of the programs and the conditions that we've put in place. We have judicial officers as mentors. Our Shades program, which is Stop Hate and Delinquency by Empowering Students, specifically focuses on hate and bias cases in the LA County area. And we work hand in hand with the Museum of Tolerance and specifically train our youth to be able to hear these specific cases. So I'm hoping that part of the grant will help the youth courts of Los Angeles County. It's an amazing program which has made a huge impact on both the youth, their families, the diverted youth and their families, and has created a great pipeline to keep the youth out of the official juvenile justice system and giving them the help they need, the help for them and their families, including the counseling. We have a large support part from our social worker interns. And it's a wonderful program. I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. Unfortunately, I have a 4:30 appointment I have to go to, but I wanted to make sure that hopefully our youth courts will be involved and given perspective in, I'm trying to read, Adam, what are you saying? Oh, sorry. No, that's not to me. Anyway, I just wanted to give a few minutes to explain why I'm here and interested and hoping that our youth courts in LA County get the support they need.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me.
Adam?
Now we have Renée Menart. And I'd like to remind everyone who would like to make a public comment, please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Renée Menart with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. I wanted to speak about this first part with the regional projects for BSCC funding. In particular, something that really stood out about the county probation survey results was that the second highest priority was security fencing. This was something that community members have noted is really problematic when we consider the scope of security in a detention setting. Additionally, the majority of probation departments indicated that they would be using these, that they would be keeping youth who are in this population that could have otherwise gone to DJJ in their costly juvenile halls, which are really inappropriate placements for long-term stays. And something that we need to consider when rating these different proposals for the regional facilities is that there needs to be consideration beyond the physical facility structures when we're looking at infrastructure. Counties need to be investing in building up the infrastructure for rehabilitative programming inside of these facilities, as well as looking at reentry as something that happens far before release. That can be helped by partnerships with community-based organizations and other service providers. And it's really critical that while the counties, of course, need to be applicants for this funding, as is often the case with BSCC grants, they can be partnering with other entities, including community-based service providers, and the BSCC could and should support and prioritize projects that implement those kinds of partnerships. In a more tangible way, looking through the outline for the RFA, I recommend that the BSCC include a minimum threshold for the projects that are funded. I don't see a minimum threshold, and it's been pretty standard in the past for there to be a 50% or 60% minimum score that projects need to receive, and something should be instated so we can make sure that we're not funding bad projects simply because those are the folks that that provided an application. So in addition to a minimum threshold for projects scores that are funded, I also would ask that the RFA include an appendix with best practices and in particular definitions for some key elements of SB 823, such as positive youth development, which was directly referenced in the legislation and should be upheld in this grant. Thank you very much for your consideration today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Before I call the next name, please remember your limit of 3 minutes for public comments. And if you have any other comments, please put that in the chat feature so we have your name listed. And the parts are listed in the chat feature as well. Next, we have Miguel Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board Member Steinhardt. Adam, I believe that you may have to put the parts again, because for folks that just got on here, they may not be able to see it. Hopefully that's not cuts in my 3 minutes, but Miguel Garcia, Advocacy Coordinator with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I am also a former DJJ youth. While at DJJ, I was the inmate ward labor crew leader at the Ventura Youth Correctional Facility. While I was the crew leader there, I oversaw the remodeling and the construction of our two Ventura Youth Behavioral Treatment Programs, along with the enhancements to fencing that required additional barbed wire fencing and mesh that prevented the youth from seeing other units or the outside community. I mention this because while constructing this, the irony of living and building my own cage was lost to me because I was just focused on doing this. But as I stepped away and came out into the community, I noticed how traumatic and more metal-like these institutions became. I bring this up as we move with the closure to DJJ, counties with their responses to the survey that was sent out emulated a lot of what I had previously built, additional barbed wire fencing, more metal-like structures, reinforcing. These were a lot of the things that I built. I believe it's important for the BSCC and the community to recognize that young people, such as myself, who have committed serious harms, don't necessarily have to stay in these long-term facilities, now these county juvenile halls, which are not designed for. I am a young person who committed a serious harm and did not need to require to stay the amount of years that I needed to stay incarcerated. And I recommend that the BSCC use some of these monies to create secure housing, such as that is found in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with the ARC program that is offered there. Also, there are multiple models out in New York where within the boroughs, youth who commit serious harms live and stay within the community. I believe it is best interest that the BSCC prioritize these types of transitional housing, as we will then, what is outlined with the regional hubs, will be creating mini DJJs, and I think that is something that I would. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Is there anyone else wishing to give input on part one? I see we have Danielle Sanchez. Adam?
Yes, that's correct. Danielle, you want to go ahead?
Absolutely, appreciate it. Good afternoon to everyone. Danielle Sanchez with the Chief Probation Officers of California. I appreciate this opportunity and for all the work that's going into really effectuating the goals and specifics of this program. We do want to make sure to express that make sure that the regional concept is supported as we're kind of talking through this. We would note that we want to make sure not to limit or fully define the counties that may partner as we continue to kind of build out these programs. I would also add that programming and staffing should be considered as part of the one-time funding in order to establish specialized hubs and programming to ensure that the beds and programs to meet the specific needs of the youth are in place as we continue to build out all of these things in a very robust manner. We would also note that one-time funding shouldn't be limited to just hard cost, and that programming should be something that is allowable, and we believe this is a very important component. As stated at the beginning of the call, we also believe it's very important that we do get that the money goes out quickly to be ready for July 1st, as we're working very steadfast along with many of the stakeholders and partners to effectuate the goals of this realignment. And so I just wanted to underscore that point on the need to do this to make sure that the things are in place, again, to best serve the youth as we make this transition. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Adam, do you have anyone else in queue?
No, for part one, this is it.
Okay, great. And if someone joins later and would like to add a comment, of course, we can be flexible and do that. And Adam, how many requests for input do you have for part two?
I have 2 for part 2.
2 for part 2. All right, great. Who's up?
Okay, we have Nazly Restrepo.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I just put in the chat. I think I need to be in part 3. I think I misunderstood what was happening here, but I'll make a comment in part 3 if that's okay.
Of course.
Okay, then let me move on to Aditi.
Yes, thank you. My name is Aditi Sherikar from Children's Defense Fund, California. First, I want to quickly highlight the serious shortcomings of the process for this listening session. Notice of the session was given less than a week ago, with even less time for the community to review the RFA. The timing of this meeting, along with the lack of advance notice, is deeply concerning and undermines trust in the BSCC. With respect to the proposed allocation of the SB 823 grant, I want to specifically highlight the problems with a pro rata distribution of grant funding across all counties without more specific requirements or commitments from the counties. Rather than taking a pro rata approach for infrastructure improvement generally, the BSCC should expressly prioritize county proposals that are trauma-informed and aligned with SB 823's goals for providing and implementing public health approaches to support positive youth development. By dividing funds pro rata across counties who have not put forth plans or proposals to meet the stated purpose of this grant, the BSCC will be abdicating their responsibility to administer this specially designated state funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Esteban Nuñez.
Hi, everyone. My name is Esteban Nuñez. I am the Director of Advocacy and Community Organizing with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Just want to echo the thoughts of my colleague, Miguel Garcia, as it pertains to number one, but I'll speak on number two, funding for all counties. ARC believes that the BSCC should not distribute 5.12 million pro rata to all counties. We do not believe that this distribution is an appropriate use of the state grant and recommend that the BSCC find an alternative. And that alternative we suggest would be combining the 5.12 million with the 4 million for regional hubs to foster regional partnerships that better serve the specified needs of the youth that we are talking about. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all I have for part two.
Okay. Anybody want to jump in on part two before we begin on part three?
See, Brian Goldstein has raised his hand for part two.
Excellent. Please go ahead, Brian.
Good afternoon, Brian Goldstein with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. We're very concerned that the RFA is proposing over $5 million to all counties in part two. We believe the BSCC should eliminate this category and shift the funding to the regional projects. BSCC has offered no justification, and it's concerning given many counties aren't sending youth to DJJ, and so we're unclear of how the BSCC came up with this recommendation. The pro rata amount given to counties is so marginal that it will likely have minimal impact on infrastructure or program improvements. But frankly, it's impossible to determine what the impact is going to be because there isn't any grant reporting in the outline. The RFA only requires 2 pages on project need and description. There's no budget, there's no reporting, and there's minimal planning required. Counties can seemingly write anything and will receive funding. So therefore, we ask the BSCC and the Executive Steering Committee to shift the funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Danielle Sanchez again for part two.
Good afternoon, Danielle Sanchez, Chief Probation Officers. Just wanted to kind of make note on this point that we appreciate the work that obviously has gone into this, and want to reiterate the importance of the funding parameters really being diverse enough to meet the myriad of needs that we know will vary by county, from the importance of programming costs, specialty staff, and many other things, again, to make sure that both regionally and as we look at the different county needs, that we're able to kind of have all of those needs met, again, with the goal of setting in place the most robust programs as needed, especially, again, in light of needing to be prepared for youth coming very soon on July 1st, 2021. So I think, again, one-time cost focused on programming, specialty staff, and again, flexibility to meet the diverse needs of the various counties. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one last person. It's Heile Gantan for part 2. Heile?
Adam, I believe she's having technical difficulties. I'm just probably chatting with her on the side. So one sec.
I see.
Thank you, Miguel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hello again, my name is Heile Gantan from the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I am commenting today to express that the BSCC has failed to offer any explanation for allocating the $5.12 million per county pro rata. We are deeply concerned that the BSCC is considering giving out these critical funds to counties that have not indicated any interest in doing relevant work. According to RFI survey results, only half of counties expressed interest in applying to this grant. And so we find no reason why it is necessary for the BSCC to offer this grant funding non-competitively to counties. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Katie, that is all I have for part 2.
Okay. Is anyone else interested in offering input at this point?
Hi, sorry, I was gonna chat in, but I guess I would just like to reiterate the comments that my colleagues Esteban Nuñez and Heile Gantan made regarding part 2 and the pro rata allocation. Thank you.
Thanks, Miguel. We'll make a note of that. Well, Chair Penner and Mr. Steinhardt, I'm certainly willing to stay at the computer and text you if other people come on to make additional comment. How would you like to proceed?
Well, I appreciate you wanting to do that. I mean,
Wait, have we not worked through the part 3 list? I thought we had.
No, Katie, we haven't called part 3 yet.
Oh, silly me. I'm sorry. Goodness. That's my mistake. We probably have plenty more people to call on. Let's move to part 3, shall we?
We have 2 for part 3. The first one is Nazly.
Yes, it's me, Nazly Restrepo. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide feedback. I sit on the JJC in Orange County, and this is definitely of interest for us to understand. I think that's probably what my major comment is that concerned with the oversight, agreeing with Aditi and Esteban, not understanding very clearly about what is actually being intended to do at the county site level. My concern is the oversight, making sure that subcommittees are being met, the reporting. As of now, some of the funding that is being currently given at the county level, there's still no held accountability as for outcomes and measures, and would love to see more oversight in ensuring that trauma-informed practices are being instilled, that the funding is being inclusive of all community members, especially those who are impacted by the most, which is youth and those who've been incarcerated, which at present moment, we just don't have enough community input in that. So again, I appreciate the feedback session, but I do feel like it's very quick because I understand it's all coming down quickly, but having a little bit more oversight and accountability, I think will help with the flow of the quickness of this, funding that needs to come down. But it just really iterating that oversight is very important in holding accountable of the funds being used and how it's going to be used.
Thank you.
Okay, just a reminder for anyone that just joined in, please drop your name in the chat feature of this Zoom if you would like to make a public comment. The next person we have is Renée Menart.
Hi again, Renée Menart with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. I appreciate the space provided for the stakeholder input today, But I do think that we need to acknowledge that many stakeholders, particularly those that are directly impacted and from community service providers, were not able to participate in today's session. This continues to have some signs point to the inaccessibility of this grant making process. Unfortunately, with less than 3 working days notice and a scheduled time during many directly impacted community members' work hours, this really fails to address concerns about the non-inclusive process that we've seen roll out. In particular, looking at the drafted RFA, we see that the recommendations were developed entirely on probation feedback that came through with that survey that went out in December, and it doesn't take into account the varied ways that we can be addressing youth needs that as we move through that transition from DJJ to the counties. In particular, I'd like to say that, moving forward, I'm interested to better understand how the BSCC plans to score these proposals and would recommend that while there's a time factor, that there be a scoring panel developed that includes membership with individuals who are directly experienced in the juvenile justice system, including youth service providers and individuals with expertise in positive youth development. At the very least, regardless of how applications are rated, looking over the RFA, it's clear that there also needs to be rating factors developed that align with SB 823's legislative intent and a rubric to be included for clear scoring considerations. Those are standardly included in BSCC's other work and in RFAs more generally. So we really do need to see some of those rating factors included that align with the legislative intent. I would also add that, as I mentioned earlier, supplementary materials that would really bolster this grant making process could include best practices as an appendix. In the past, there have been RFPs that have included reports on positive youth development or the trauma and challenges of certain detention settings and ways to minimize some of the harm caused to youth when they're involved in the system. I would also note that the definitions that I mentioned earlier were included in the most recent Prop 64 committee, and I think it really helped to have definitions for some of the key elements of this grant included in the RFA. Thank you again for your time, and I hope that there are more opportunities for community involvement in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Katie, we have no other members in the queue for any of the parts, but let me just remind everyone, if you would like to make a public comment, please drop your name in the chat feature and decide on which part you'd like to discuss on, and we'll call your name out.
So Katie, maybe now's the time to discuss, staying on the computer and alerting us if some other comments come in the next 45 minutes or so. That works?
Sure. That's absolutely fine, Linda. Happy to stay on, and Adam or I will text you and David immediately if I'm assuming you can stay nearby your computer, so you could just jump back on the screen if we do have additional comments coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. David, that works for you?
Let me unmute. Yes, I can certainly. Am I muted now? It says I'm
No,
muted.
yeah, we hear you, David.
Okay, I can stay on.
Okay, great.
I mean, I guess I could fill the air a little bit by saying at least one thing, which is just in terms of where the money goes. I'm thinking about that all county share. I mean, there is nothing to prevent folks on this call, whatever sector they're from talking to the county about how that money is going to be spent. I mean, that is a county decision. It doesn't go to probation. It is not earmarked for anybody in particular. It goes to the county. And so there's a county by county process for how those funds get spent. And that's all I was going to say. I mean, there's this impression has been given that it was all for probation, or that the survey only went to probation, which is not true. So, I mean, how the money gets spent is up to each county. That was all.
All right.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, I'm going to turn off my camera, but Adam, I'm still right here at my desk. So I really appreciate you staying on. Others who are in attendance are welcome to stay if you like, but certainly don't feel obligated. Totally your option.
Do you feel like, Katie, if you stay on until a little after 5 would be a fair estimate? So people got an opportunity to get in?
Yeah, I would say maybe at least 5:15 in case, you know, that, yeah.
Okay.
And just a reminder to, oh, wait, actually, we have a sudden public comment. Brian Goldstein for section 3. Would you like to make your comment?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Brian Goldstein with CJCJ. I have a question for the committee. In the past, the Board of State and Community Corrections, with all of their facility construction funding, whether it was on the adult side for jail construction or rounds 1 and 2 of SB 81, allowed the public to provide public comment when the committee was reviewing applications. Will the committee allow that to happen again? Again, in line with what the agency has done for all of the facility construction funding? Thank you.
I'm not sure what you mean, Brian.
What I mean is that in the past, so for SB 81 round 2, counties submitted applications. The committee met in public so the public could attend it, see how the committee was rating the applications, and the public could provide public comment. It doesn't seem like this committee has had any public meetings. So what we're asking is that if the agency is going to be giving out millions of dollars to counties for facility construction funding, will the public have an opportunity to attend a public meeting and provide public comment on these applications?
Okay.
Well, that was a question. Katie, do you have an answer for that? I mean, you know, I think
We are still working through the details of specifically how these proposals will be evaluated. It is different from, I mean, Brian, the scope of what you're referencing with, you know, tens of millions of dollars going into proposed actual construction projects to build or rebuild something. This is, you know, obviously a much smaller amount of funding, but I can certainly say we will take your suggestion under advisement, and we'll be getting right back to work on the rest of this process. And I think, frankly, think we've gotten some good input and suggestions today. The other thing to note, of course, is that when the recommendations go to the board, that's another opportunity for public comment about the counties that are recommended for funding. But I heard your suggestion, Brian, to be more having to do with as this working group is coming to its conclusions based on the applications that come in. So I'm not prepared to provide an answer today, but I can certainly say that we will discuss it as soon as this week. Anybody else wanting to make a comment?
At this
well,
time,
I see a lot of comments about how we should keep the mic open until 6 p.m. because that's how it was advertised. I don't know quite what to do about it. I see it more like a committee when the testimony's over than the meeting is over, but why don't we come up with a time at which we'll stay open so that people that will have some opportunity if they do arrive late.
Right. And David, you make a great point. I think the feeling is we stay over after 5 significantly so that people who got off work could hop right on a Zoom, even from their car and reach out. So I don't think we need to stay on till 6. I think, what do we say, 5:15, 5:30, and then
let's do 5:30 as a compromise. That'll be fine.
I think that's very fair. And
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. David, anything you want to say?
Well, are we going to stay like open Zoom here, which is, I'm fine with
Yeah, I
that.
think we
Yeah,
should
yeah,
stay.
stay
Then-
open Zoom.
Will Adam sort of be the catcher on whatever, whoever might want to come in again later?
Mhm. Yeah, David, my plan was to just turn off my camera and mic and work on other things at my desk. And
Okay.
Adam will stay and monitor the waiting room and the chat, of course. And if there are any requests to comment, we will, I'll text you and Linda if you're not right there where you can hear. Okay.
Good.
Actually, Linda and David, we do have one more. Miguel Garcia, he wants to talk about part 3.
Yes, thank you, Adam. And thank you, Madam Chair and David Steinhardt. I would like to bring up that while it's very unfortunate that, that the public wasn't really involved in the process, I just want to voice my concerns of like this is being like a kind of a pattern with when the BSCC holds these listening sessions. I understand that it's the committee's right to go ahead and end the commitment or call right after public comment. But there are folks that when given this timeline, the advocacy community is struggling to get more folks on these calls. And when we're giving like a specific time, we would hope that the BSCC respects that time. And I know it's we all have things to do, but just that the time structure is really valuable. And if one person shows up at the last minute at 5:49 or 5:59, we should honor that. But I again, the decision is up against yours. I just wanted to bring that up because with the short time frame and just there's been a very lack of input within this process. It's been sparked, but yes, thank you.
So the decision is now to stay on the meeting, right? And be notified if we have to come back in. So I guess people that want to stay in should mute their mic and their camera and just be in hearing distance.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
I think that'll work well. And
Actually,
Adam,
we have one a late addition. We have Michiko Soto.
oh,
for
awesome.
3.
Thank you.
Michiko. Michiko, thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'd like to first start off by echoing what I heard from Miguel Garcia about the intent of SB 823 and the health-based approaches. And if the intent of SB 823 is to offer trauma-informed care for our young people, why are we then investing more funds into structures that dehumanize them and further the trauma that is created by being locked up in a facility like DJJ and juvenile hall? My second comment is that, Brian, no, not Brian. Where did he go? The board members said that the county has, David. Board member David said that the county has oversight on these funds, but where is the oversight for the counties? Who is controlling, the communication between the counties and the community? And is there any expectation that the county would have to communicate with us? Because it has been clear that in a lot of places, they don't want to communicate with community-based organizations and advocates who are working to better meet the needs of our young people. And if these meetings are going to continue to be private and had without our input, where is the example that's being set for the counties to actually include us in these conversations?
Thank you for that.
Okay, Adam, anybody? Should we go with plan A right now? And
Yeah, I think so, Linda. And Adam, will you
close
please,
and somebody comes in, we just pop in.
perfect. And Adam, would you please put in the chat, welcome, please put your name in if you're interested. We are keeping this stakeholder input session open until 5:30 p.m.
Got it. Will do.
Thank you. I'm here, and text me if I should happen to step away, Adam, okay? Thank
For
you.
sure. Got it now. Anyone just joining, if you would like to make a public comment on SB 823, please drop your name in the chat feature of this Zoom and we will call out your name. Thank you very much. For anyone who just joined, and if you would like to make a public comment on SB 823, please drop your name in the chat feature and we will call out your name. Thank you.
Kent. This is Katie Howard.
I signed up for public comment.
Hi, Kent. We're going to get our working group co-chairs back on camera, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
Yes, yes.
How are you doing?
Doing great.
Good. Glad to hear it.
I'm here, Katie.
Hey, Linda.
Hello.
Awesome. Okay, Kent, please go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, sorry for that. I was multitasking. Hello, BSCC. Hello, everybody. My name is, good afternoon or good evening. It's 5 already, so good evening, everybody. My name is Kent Mendoza. I am the manager of advocacy and community organizing for the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, Los Angeles office, South LA. South California. So yeah, so I'm here just to someone who's been working on a lot of juvenile justice, criminal justice issues in LA County and the state level, local level, and someone who works for an organization that serves the population that we care for, people who are returning home from incarceration. I am here to just tell the BSCC basically that we need to focus on more than just facilities. I think that we have to go beyond physical facility structures in this plan. I know that we talk about investing in building new alternatives and alternative types of systems, whatever, but I would say that we need to really think beyond just facilities and how to remodel them, because at the end of the day, I feel that we need to really figure out ways how the BSCC can create real infrastructures of community-based organizations that can actually work with youth who are in these places. Because at the end of the day, the service providers, CBOs, are the ones that are going to really get to the root cause of the issues that we're dealing with or that the youth are experiencing. So I would say that in counties that partner with community-based organizations, we need to do better at just really working together with CBOs. How can we really reevaluate programs and services that are currently are currently contracted with counties and probably they're not working, or how can we reevaluate those things and really create different avenues for CBOs to be able to provide these types of support for youth who are in these places. So I also want to reiterate that the BSCC should not distribute the 5.12 million pro rata to all counties. I believe that this distribution is not an appropriate use of the state grant, and we are recommending in ARC that the BSCC eliminates it. So yeah, I guess just really wanted to reiterate that we focus more on just the community-based organizations that are really helping to create better outcomes for our youth, and to not just focus on the facility structures, but actually focus on what can be provided for the youth while they're in these places and when they're coming home. So yeah, I guess that's just my comment, and I'll keep it short and simple. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Kent. We appreciate you coming.
For anyone who just joined, if you would like to make a public comment, please drop your name in the chat feature and we will call out your name on SB 823. And we will hold a line open until 5:30 tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Standing by.
Members of the public, thank you for joining us tonight to discuss SB 823. If you would like to make a public comment, please drop your name in the chat feature and we will call on you. We will keep this line open until 5:30. Thank you very much. Members of the public, if you are just joining us and would like to make a public comment, please drop your name into the chat feature and we will call out your name. Linda, David, are you available? We have a member that would like to make a public comment.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi,
Manny,
Adam. I'm ready.
hi everyone. and Manny, Linda is here, correct?
Yes, I heard Linda.
Yeah, hold on. I got it. You know me, I have to get my computer going here. Got that. Got that. There you go.
Super.
Okay. Manny, go ahead.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak real quick. I'll be brief. I know we're short on time, right? So I just want you guys to know that it is essential that we prioritize rehabilitative programming and reentry. It's really important for counties to invest in the components of reentry that can contribute to recidivism reduction and the safety of our communities. Specifically for me as a formerly incarcerated individual, community organizations were pivotal in my unique reentry experience. I stand in front of you as the recent 2021 awardee of UCLA's Graduate Opportunity Fellowship for a Master's in Social Work and Social Justice Policy. Without these organizations, somebody as me who's only been out of prison 18 months, right, would not be able to make an achievement like that. So it's so important because it gave me the platform and the opportunity. And it's 2 out of 40,000 UCLA students get this graduate fellowship, right? These organizations gave me the confidence, and they motivated me to make sure that I would shoot for the stars, right? And I can proudly say that it benefited. So thank you so much for this brief opportunity to comment. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Manny, don't feel rushed. If there's more you want to say, we have time. And congratulations on that scholarship. That's absolutely terrific.
I was going to say the same thing. It sounds like you're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually work as a case manager for the Office of Diversion and Reentry, right?
Oh, cool.
It's a phenomenal model that demonstrates, the capacities of investing in these community reentry organizations, right? So I use my own personal lived in experience to motivate others and to demonstrate that, hey, you know what, regardless of, what happened in our past, how we entered, the custody system and CDCR, you can still, achieve, for me, some contributing factors were the military, right? I'm a Navy veteran, 6 years honorably discharged. And, I didn't address PTSD appropriately, right? I decided to go and resort to substance abuse, and I was held accountable, right? I'm 100% responsible for the crimes that I committed, and I deserve that time. But it was really essential for me to, rely on these community organizations, especially as a veteran, who allowed me to go and apply for my military benefits, to allow me to get that disability compensation, right? If those resources were not out there, I would have been lost. I would have gone to the same old behavioral patterns before, because that was my safety zone, right? But I had so much, I was blown away at the support that I had, right? Especially from like Anti-Recidivism Coalition, A New Way of Life, Alcott Mental Health, who really normalized my experience, right? Who really made it so easy. Like I could have never imagined. I got accepted to 5 schools here in Los Angeles County. Obviously, I'm gonna go to UCLA because it's UCLA, right? But I applied to Long Beach, USC, Stanford, Columbia, and I got into all of them, right?
Wow.
Because I was given the confidence, and others paved that way. And they showed me that it was possible. And if I didn't have these community organizations that gave me that community to meet individuals who have gone down this path, I wouldn't have not gone down that. So it's so important that we invest in these organizations, right? That we deviate a little bit about the infrastructure, but allow us to build that community. I'm a testament, it's very rare to see somebody like myself, so recent out of custody be so successful. I just bought a home, I just had a new baby.
Wow.
So it's been a great journey, and I'm glad I'm able to share, a little bit of my story to show you that rehabilitation is absolutely possible. And not only is it possible, we can, come out here and do amazing and extraordinary things. And I look forward to come back here in a couple of years, as a social justice policy fellow and be an advocate for this community. So thank you so much. Thank you for the few extra minutes that I can share a little bit more about myself.
Yeah.
It's been a long day, so I'm a little bit tired. And it's last minute, right? But
yeah, we really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much, and telling us a little bit about what you've been up to, which is quite a lot. Congratulations on all that.
And we pay it forward, right? I'm responsible for 15 individuals who also go through the reentry experience, through Alcott Mental Health, my organization. I also serve as a mentor to demonstrate others that, we can help each other out, right? It's the platforms that allow us to link each other up. It's so important and so crucial. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have 2 more speakers. We have Journey. Journey, do you want to say something?
Yes, I would like to say something. Hello, all. My name is Journey Presley. I'm a member with Anti-Recidivism Coalition, and I'm also a community health worker. I think it's very, very important that these reentry programs are oh gosh, I'm losing it all. I'm just getting off of work and was trying to hurry up and come and speak. You guys excuse me for a moment. Yeah, that I think that it's these community-based programs are very, very essential. I myself, I'm formerly incarcerated, and I went through a community-based program. I went through Center for Employment Opportunity, and I thank God that the organization was there. I had a peer navigator, which kind of helped me navigate through this system. And also I became a member at Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I've been a member there for almost 3 years. And it's been like very, very important on my journey, my re-entry journey. I also from my personal experience, I took a few classes and I become a community health worker, which that's what I do. A community health worker, for all that do not know what it is I help with re-entry. So the lived experience that I had and that I'm able to share, and also able to help someone navigate through, back through the re-entry process. I think it's essential. That's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have Mark Taylor. Mark, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to share this space with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mark Taylor. I was sentenced to 26 years to life in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I've been home for around 2 years, 5 months now. The day after I was released, I walked in the Anti-Recidivism Coalition's Los Angeles office because I needed help reintegrating into society. I think it's absolutely essential that some of these funds are allocated to grassroots nonprofit organizations like the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. They showed me how to apply for college. I too was accepted to 5 colleges. I'm currently studying social work at Humboldt State University, maintaining a 4.0. I've been there for around a year. In a year, I'll graduate and I plan on pursuing my master's because I want to be of service to individuals in our community. But grassroots organizations are the ones that help me reintegrate into society. Not only did they get me accepted to college, they showed me how to get a driver's license. They showed me how to build my credit. They showed me how to open a bank account. They showed me everything that I needed to do to successfully reintegrate into society. As a result, I was released from parole 5.5 years early. I was supposed to be on for 7. I've been on for 2.5. Part of that is some of the things that I've been doing out here in the community. I'm also a life coach for the men confined in Pelican Bay State Prison. I work inside Pelican Bay State Prison, showing those men that rehabilitation is possible and providing the services that make that absolutely possible. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll keep it brief just in case anyone else would like to speak, and I'm open for any questions if anyone has. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, we have no one else in the queue at this time.
Well, we have a few more minutes. No, we're done. It's at 5:30. I think it is fitting to end. And Katie, anything?
For those who have stayed on the line, thank you very, very much for coming and participating. Please do convey if anyone is aware of someone who wanted to give input but was not able to come within this window. We are still taking written comment through the website, and that's on our web posting. And so that would still be welcome. Any closing comments from you, David?
No, I'd just like to thank everybody who spoke. I wish this grant could do all things for all people. There are just some limitations that we're working with here. We're trying to do the best we can, and yet there's some good input here that we're going to discuss at length after this is over. So just again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks again. On that note, we will adjourn and see you all at the next meeting.